All right, so for today's lesson, I'm not going to give you notes per se. I know we're all busy, and instead of coming to class and sitting down and me lecturing and you taking notes, I figure I'll just kind of give you the basics of it. So I am going to be talking a little bit, but I'm just going to go through a worksheet with you guys, and we're actually going to work through problems together. And then you have an assignment that's already listed on Schoology. So before we get started, for variables and expressions, I just wanted to do a quick little chart. You can print this off if you want or make your own. It's available in a PDF on Schoology in this folder. But I'm just going to fill this out with you so we kind of get familiar about what words we're talking about, and then we can move to the worksheet. All right, so in math, sometimes we have to, instead of just writing numbers and symbols, we have to use words, kind of like proper English, we don't want to use slang. We can't just say 3x or something like that. We have to properly know how to speak math in words. Not all the time, but when we're talking about verbal expressions, we do. So what words do we use and how do we use them? All right, so here's this little chart for addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Here are some words that we use, and here's an example at the top of each, so I'll use the words to describe it. All right, so whenever I have 8 plus 4, that's what this looks like, and when I read it in my head, that's how I read it, 8 plus 4. Perfect. So I could use the word plus, and again, I would say 8 plus 4. Okay, I could also use the word sum, and I would say the sum of, and I would list the two things that I'm adding, right? Whatever and whatever. So in this case, it's 8 and 4, the sum of 8 and 4. Okay, then I could say total. So you could say there's a total of 12. If I said there's a total of 12, that means whatever I had, if I had 8 in one hand and 4 in the other, I had to add them up. So if you see the word total, 12 total, like that, it means I had to add 8 plus 4. Okay, then you could say increase. There is an increase of 4. We started with 8 with an increase of 4. I'm running out of room here. So you could see the word increase, and that means you added something. Increased by, so you could say 8 increased by 4, which basically is the same thing as 8 plus 4, right? And then more than. One thing I want you to know about these two, more than and less than, they do not mean plus and minus, okay? You could not read this. If I have this up here, 8 plus 4, I can't say 8 more than 4. It actually goes backwards. So I have to ask myself, more than what, right? Here it's 8 plus 4. So it's actually 4 more than 8. So I started off with 8, and then I added 4 to it. So it's 4 more than 8. More than what? The what part goes first. So I'm going to write that down here. That works for more than or less than. More than what? So we would say 4 more than 8. The what goes first, and then you tell the more than part. So you just flip-flop the order. We'll do it. Well, there's a bunch of that on your worksheet we're going to do. Okay, so that's addition. Here's some words for subtraction. I have the variable m minus 8, so I can use the word minus, m minus 8. Difference, I could say the difference of. Difference of. Whenever I'm talking about difference, subtraction, remember the order matters. If I'm adding, it doesn't really matter if I add 8 plus 4 or 4 plus 8, I get the same answer. But it does matter if I say m minus 8 or 8 minus m. Same thing with the words. The difference of, and then you have to list what you're subtracting in the order that it's written. So the difference of m and 8. M goes first, 8 goes last. Okay, less. So you might say, I've heard my mom saying that before, like we paid out this much less what we put into it, and that gives us our total profit or something, right? You maybe sold cookies and you spent $10 on the ingredients, and then you sold them and you made $20. So $20 less the $10 that you spent, That gives you $10 left over. Less means minus. So here we'll say m less 8. That literally, it's like a verb. It literally means minus. M minus 8, m less 8. Decrease, just like increase, we could say m with a decrease of 8. You don't always have to say with a decrease of or whatever, but if you see the word decrease, you know something went down, so you know you're subtracting. I'm just giving you written examples. Decreased by, so we could say that means minus 2. M decreased by 8. These all go in the same order as we see up here. M minus 8. M is first, 8. M 8, M 8, M 8, M 8. Until we get to less than. Less than what? It's 8 less than M. We started with M, and then we took 8 away from it. So it's 8 less than what we started with. 8 less than M. So you ask yourself, less than what? The what part goes first. 8 less than M, what? M, okay, so M goes first. What am I saying? Less than, 8 less than, sorry, the 8 goes first, and then you're what? 8 less than M. This whole time we've written M and then 8. This is the only one we flip-flop the order and say 8 and then M. Less than. 8 less than, and then you ask yourself less than what? That part goes in first. Okay? Multiplication. That was a little confusing, sorry, the way I said it. Okay, so here's an example. I have 15p, or you could write it with the little, it looks like an X in between. It times, so we could say 15 times p. The product of, and then you list whatever those terms are. The product of 15 and p. You don't say the product of 15 times p. Once you've said product, we already know you're multiplying, so you do not say it again. Same thing here with adding and subtracting. You don't say the sum of 8 plus 4. You say the sum, that tells us we're adding, and then you just list the two things we're adding, 8 and 4. The difference, that tells us we're subtracting, so we're subtracting m and 8. Don't say the difference of m minus 8. That's what a lot of kids do, and that's incorrect. The product of 15 and p. Multiply. We could say something like multiply 15 by p. And that would tell us it was 15 times p. Groups of, we could say p is in groups of 15. P in groups. That sounds funny when you say it out loud. P, whatever number P is, 2 people, let's say, 2 people in groups of 15. So there's 15 groups of P, right? Oh, that's a better way of saying it, I guess. 15 groups of P. 15 groups of P. If you see groups of, you know you're multiplying. Every. So if we're using every, we could say every, I don't know, 15, every, and then usually P is an amount, like miles. Like we could say there's one gas station every 20 miles. So if you want to know how many gas stations there are in a certain area, 15 times 20 or whatever, right? 2 times 20, whatever it is. Every means you multiply. Of, this is only when we use fractions, right? So it doesn't apply to this up here, but if I said, oh, can you see that? Oh, I didn't realize you couldn't see any of that. I'm so sorry. I'm talking and not paying attention. Sorry. Here's all this that I was writing. All right, so if I say of, it's not regular numbers, it's only fractions. So I could say if I had 1/3 x, I would say this is 1/3 of x. 1/3 of x means I multiplied them together. If I had 1/2 m, that would be half of m. 1/2 of m. Whenever you see a fraction and the word of, it means you're multiplying. And then if you just see the word factors, you know that it has something to do with multiplication. Factors are 2 numbers you get when you factors are what you multiply when you get a number. So factors of 63 would be 9 and 7, right? Factors of 20 would be 2 and 10, 4 and 5. Factors are the numbers you multiply together. So we'll just say numbers you multiply together. I don't have a good example, but you'll just, if you see the word factors, you know you're multiplying. And then, so sorry I didn't scoot that up a while ago. And then finally for division, if this is our example, we would just say 12 divided by 3. You could say the quotient of, and whenever you say that, the quotient of, you just list your two things with the word and in between them. The quotient of 12 and 3. You could say in or per. So we could say that's not a great example, the 12 divided by 3. If I said, let's use the 1/3 here. If I had 1 divided by 3, I could say 1 in 3 people. 1 in 3 people have a dog, something like that. You could write that as 1 over 3, like a ratio, which is also division, 1 divided by 3. Okay, ratio again, same, the per, you could say the same thing. We could say, how would we say per? 1 per 3 people, 1 per 3 people. Are there enough breadsticks to go around? Yeah, there's 1 per 3 people, or you could say there's 3 per person, something like that. So it just means you're writing it as a ratio, which is division. A ratio is a fraction. So if you said it's a ratio of 4 to 1, a ratio of, I'll use my example up here, 12 divided by 3, a ratio of 12 to 3. 12 to 3. Yeah, you have to have that word 2 in between for a ratio. 12 to 3. It means 12 divided by 3. 12 over 3. Okay, and then a rate, just like a ratio, we could say at a rate of 12 per 3. 12 breadsticks per 3 people, something like that, right? At a rate of 12 something per 3 people. So we could use rate there. That would be more of a ratio, which a ratio is a division problem. All right, so you can fill that out if you want. It's kind of helpful to have, hole punch it, put it in with your notes. Sorry, that was a little weird fitting it all in. And then we'll move on to the worksheet. So quick reference. All right, so the worksheet explains just what we've been saying. Variables and expressions, write a verbal expression. An algebraic expression, that's important, consists of one or more numbers and variables, along with one or more arithmetic operations. So x plus 4. Right? If we actually wrote, if it looks something like this and it had an x in it, a plus sign, and a 4, that would be an algebraic expression, right? If we wrote it out in words and we said the sum of, in words, the sum of x and 4, that would be a verbal expression where we're using words instead of just numbers. Okay, so example, write a verbal expression for each algebraic expression. So the algebraic one they gave you here, just a normal, when you see an equation or whatever, here is 6n squared. Now, when I read that in my head, I say 6n squared, but you can't say 6n because you're not telling me what operation is happening. Yeah, we know that when you don't see an operation, it's multiplication, but when you're using a verbal expression, you actually have to say that. You can't assume. The proper way is to say what the operation is. So here you could say the product of 6 and n squared, right? So we're multiplying 6 times n squared. The product of, product means we're multiplying. These are the two things we're multiplying together, right? We could also say 6 times n squared. We could say, what are some of our other buzzwords? N squared in groups of 6. N squared every 6 units. We could say, I think we already said times, right? The factors are 6 and n squared. Means we multiplied those together to get this guy, all right? B, n to the third power minus 12m. Now I just want to remind you, you can't call this 12m. Yeah, when I'm doing math problem, I read it that way, but when I write a verbal expression, that's not correct. That's lazy. I have to say what the 12 and the m are doing together. So here they said the difference being this subtraction sign. So what two things are we subtracting? N cubed, that's n to the third power, and here's our difference. We're subtracting n cubed, and what's the second guy? 12 times m. See how they said times? You have to say what the operation is. So let's do a few of these. I think I'm going to stick to this odd side. If you want to go back and try the even side, I'll post the answers up later, so you can go back and look at these. So here, w minus 1. I could also say 1 less than w. Remember, when I say less than or more than, I flip-flop the order. 1 less than what? 1 less than w, so I put the w here. Okay, there's other ways we could have said it too, but those are correct. 3, 81 plus 2x. Now I can't say 2x, I have to say what these are doing. So I'm going to say the sum of 81 and, that's the first thing I'm adding. What's the second thing I'm adding? 2 times x. 2 times x. The sum of 81 and 2 times x. Okay, then I have 8 to the fourth power, right? Whenever, oh, we didn't go over, I guess we can add that down here. Whenever we have exponents. I'll add that on for you too. So x5. We can say x to the, whatever the exponent is, power. So here it would be x to the 5th power. If it's a 2 or a 3, you can say squared or cubed, but anything more than that, you have to say to the 4th power, to the 5th power, whatever. X squared if there's a 2, x cubed if there's a 3. Okay, so here we can say 8 to the 4th power, 8 to the 4th power. Okay, number 7, we have 2n squared plus 4. Again, I can't write it that way. So I'm going to say, because I'm adding two things, I'm adding this and this. So I'm going to say the sum of, how do I say 2n squared? I'm going to say 2 times n, and I have to write the word squared. I can't just put the little 2. I have to write it out verbally. So that was one thing, and the thing that I'm adding to it is 4. The sum of 2 times n squared and 4. 3 more. 1/4 b squared. So whenever I have a fraction and I'm multiplying, I'm going to use the word of, just like on that chart. So I'm going to say 1/4, or I could write 1/4. I don't care if you spell out words. Like if it's an 8, you don't have to write E-I-G-H-T. You can just put the number 8. That's fine, as long as everything else is in words. So 1/4 of b squared. 1/4 of b squared means 1/4 times b squared. 3x, is that a plus? 3x plus 4. So I'm going to say 4 more than, remember the n goes to the front when you say more than. 4 more than what? What's the first thing I started with? 3 times x. Don't just say 3x. Say 3 times x. Last one. Oh, that's a long one. I can't tell sometimes if they're division signs or plus signs. It looks like a plus. Yeah, it's definitely a plus. Okay, 3b squared plus 2a to the 3rd. All right, so I'm going to say the sum of, now I have to list these two things, this and this. So I'm going to say 3 times b squared, that's the first thing, and then I list the second thing, 2 times a to the third. 2 times a cubed, or I'm going to say to the third power. You could have said cubed. That would have been faster. All right, cool. Hopefully that helps you a little bit. I'm going to flip over real quick. There's a back side to this, and then we're all done. Oops. Move that. All right, and again, at every study guide, when you look back, it actually has the lesson up top, so you guys can read through that. You don't need me to rewrite the lesson. So we were just writing verbal expressions. Now we're going to read the verbal expression and write it algebraically. Most people think this is easier. Write algebraic expressions. Translating verbal to algebraic is an important algebraic skill. Write an algebraic expression for each verbal. So we're going to read the words and write it out like an equation. For more than a number in. So remember, more than means I switch the order. This goes to the back, this comes to the front. So I'm going to write in first, and it's for more than that. So I'm going to add 4 to the end. That's what they did here. They showed you how they worked through it. The difference of a number squared and 8. What happens when they just say a number? What do you use in math when you don't know what a number is? A variable. So you can use any variable you want. I'm going to write that. Use any variable. Any letter of the alphabet is fine when all it says is a number. It does not mean pick some random number. It doesn't mean say 7 squared minus 8. That's not what it's saying. It's saying you don't know what the number is, so use a variable. So the expression difference implies subtraction. The difference of the first thing and the second thing. Whenever you see this and, you have to go in that order, right? Something and something. And what are we doing? We're subtracting it. So the difference of a number squared and 8. So they said n squared minus 8. You could have said x squared minus 8. That would be fine too. This is algebraic. This is verbal. On the other side, like when you're doing work, when you're trying to write the verbal expression, that's hard. Like there's so many different ways you could do it. Everyone's like, I don't know. I don't know if it's right. Use some of these on the verbal side. See what they're saying. See if you can copy that, right? Use the same wording. All right, I'm gonna do like the first 6 and then we're done. Write an algebraic expression for each verbal expression. A number, so I'm gonna use x, decreased by minus 8. X minus 8. Some number I don't know, decreased by 8. Number 2, a number, something I don't know, divided by 8. So x divided by 8. 3, a number, I'm going to use x, squared. 4, 4 times a number. So that means 4x. You guys getting the idea? Every time you see the words a number, it's referring to some variable we don't know. So you just use x or m or p or q or whatever letter you want. 5, a number divided by 6. Divided by 6. X divided by 6, or you could write x divided by 6. Either way. Either one of those would be correct. 6, a number multiplied by 37 times 37. That wasn't very good for me to use x and then the little time. So we'd say x times 37, or a better way to write that would be 37x. Remember when you're multiplying or adding, it doesn't matter what order you do it in. 7, I'm just going to keep going. I know I said I would stop at 6. The sum, so we're adding, of, here's our separator, so it's something and something. The sum of 9 and a number, 9 plus x. 8, 3 less than 5 times a number. Less than means we switch the order, so 3 goes in back. This goes in front. 5 times a number would be 5x, but it's not that. It's 3 less than that, so minus 3. Almost done. Twice the sum of 15. Twice the sum of... Okay, so first we want to start here. Sum of. So we know we're adding, and we see the word and, so we're going to add this guy and whatever this guy is. So I'm going to start there. 15 plus x. But it's not just that, it's twice that. When you see the word twice, that's multiplication. I'm going to go back and add that onto my little chart here. Oh, I took that off. Hang on. I had a chart, and then I improved upon it, and that's the old one. All right, multiplication over here in this far column. I'm going to write twice means times 2. So when you say twice, if I did something twice, I did it 2 times. So if I say twice the sum, it means 2 times the sum. So I'm going to put this in parentheses and put a 2 out front. Since it started with that, I have to start with that here. Twice the sum of 15 and a number. 2 times 15 plus a number. 10, 1/2 the square of b. 1/2, think of being in here. 1/2 of, so 1/2 times the square of b. Same thing as b squared. 11, 7 more than, so the 7 goes in the back, the rest of this goes up front. The product of 6 and a number. So product of something and something. So 7 more than that. So the product of 6 and a number means 6x. I don't know what the number is. I use x. The product of 6 and x is 6x. And it's 7 more than that. So I add 7 at the end. And 12. 30 increased by, so I'm adding, 3 times the square of a number, x squared. So 30 increased by 3 times the square of a number. Okay, hopefully that helped you guys. Good luck on the worksheet. Make sure you upload and show me your work, this kind of stuff. I need to see it. Don't just write the answers if you want full credit. Thanks, guys.